are not taking security and defense seriously in this country, and our way of life is in jeopardy as a result. This conference, among other events of this type, are important and timely for the discussion of national defense and security issues. They constitute a much-needed contribution to what is a woefully inadequate and arguably non-existent national security culture here in Canada. Those of us here today, and everybody either watching or participating behind the scenes, have a responsibility to discuss these important issues on behalf of the millions of Canadians who deserve to enjoy their lives free of concern about their personal security, the safety of their families, the future of their nation, or the integrity of their very way of life. Most of us, either in the room or watching remotely, have enjoyed levels of personal and collective security that many elsewhere in the world can only dream of. I genuinely believe that the global security situation has fundamentally changed in the past few years, and the complacency and attendant risk management approaches to defense and security matters implemented by successive governments of all political orientations have severely undermined not only our credibility as a nation, but more importantly, our national security. National security is much more complex now in 2023, and it goes well beyond the traditional considerations that have allowed our leaders to naively rely upon our physical isolation from the many threats of previous decades. Canada, however, is no longer immune to events on the other side of the world, and nor is our way of life guaranteed simply because of our proximity to the United States or our relative wealth or advantage as a nation. Of late, I have observed increased use of the word resilience in the context of the complex security challenges facing us and our allies. To paraphrase a recent conversation with a former colleague, resilience in its purest form is the antithesis of efficiency, which regrettably has long been the excuse used to substantiate underinvestment in security and defense by successive governments for decades. Canadians are increasingly enduring the impacts of systemic failures in resilience across the many dimensions of their day-to-day lives. I give you healthcare, essential government services, and the global supply chain as relevant examples. I will leave these other issues for experts in those domains. National security resilience, however, in my opinion, must have primacy. For if our leaders fail to protect this vital national interest, none of the other subordinate, pressing political concerns or urgent domestic priorities will actually matter. Finally, the politicization of security and defense is irresponsible, dangerous, and must stop immediately. These vital national interests are way too important to be subject to the whims of short-term political interests and public opinion. The primary responsibility of any government is to protect its people, their way of life, and the institutions that serve them. It is long overdue that national security and defense were raised above the noise and distraction of politics and placed at the pinnacle of our national priorities. I therefore call on parliamentarians, among others, to devise and implement a robust mechanism that establishes security and defense as vital national priorities, irrespective of the political party in power. This kind of approach already exists in some allied democracies that recognize and embrace the importance of their security responsibilities, and by extension, behave as serious nations. Thank you.